Hello, this is Tim Law with Playing It Forward Coaching, Self-Reliance You. Anyway, just please uh, subscribe to my channel, Playing It Forward Coaching on YouTube. I appreciate it very, very much. I am very, very pleased to have a very good friend of mine, Charles Rusty McCollum, tremendous coach and teacher and mentor over at Northeastern High School. He and I have been friends for a long time, and definitely have a strong bond with him. I think he does more for kids pretty much than literally anybody in the school, and I have a huge respect for him. And so, Rusty, fire away. Tell us your story a little bit here, and let's roll.
All right. Well, my background is just growing up and enjoying sports, right? So when I go to college, I have a great advisor ask me, what do I like? What's positive influence in my life? And it's sports, right? So sports is such a nice microcosm of America, really. You know, we get a lot done through sports. They lead the way from Jesse Owens to Serena Williams and so on and so forth. Whether it's uh, just treatment of people and progress in a capital society, it's great. So after I went to college, I became a phys ed teacher and a coach.
Very good, very good. I don't know if your hands are on the desk there or not, Rusty, but the camera's moving just a little bit.
All
So
right, no problem.
just want to give you the heads up there. So who would you say were some of the main influences that influenced you? That, in other words, people as you were coming up, that kind of believed in Rusty McCollum, that kind of gave you that fuel inside of you.
Really, I just enjoyed the game. I had a high school coach that gave us good lessons in life. I wouldn't say, I mean, his influence was great as far as what it took to be a young man in the city of Tampa. And he was a good influence, but the game was great. The game, the friendship, I can't think of a bigger joy than the friendship and the competitiveness.
Mhm. And what would you say some of the main life lessons, Rusty, that you learned as in those impressionable years of high school?
So as a young man growing up in high school, it's simple. You got to look at the tea leaves, right? You see that you're expendable. You understand that your value is what you contribute to your community. If you can't contribute, you're cut.
Mhm.
Uh, it keeps us in a capitalist society very competitive in our jobs. Keeps us very active and all that we do. So you got to stay on top of your game. And sometimes your role changes. It could go from player to coach, or from player to analyst, or player to statistician. Um, so once you've been beaten out or you're past your prime, you have to retool. Just in life, if the fish and you live by a place where there's no water, you got to change your game. We can't stay stagnant. We got to look for growth, and we got to look for our competitive spirit where we are.
Mhm. Yeah, certainly agree with that. What would be some of your best advice toward teens and young adults going forward? That we're into this big technology age and everything, where kids are spending huge amounts of time on, gaming and social media, et cetera. And I realize that technology is here to stay. My concern is what I'm observing, what I would refer to as kind of enforced laziness, and yourself, as far as, keeping your game up, or whether, physically, mentally, and emotionally, how important it is. And what would be some of your best advice to, some of these young up and comers here?
So the gaming is really awesome. I'm one of the few people that would say gaming's great, right? It's the same competitive edge.
Hmm.
So there's a balance in life, right? You want to be a good person, you want to be a good athlete, you want to be a good father, you want to be a good husband, wife, whatever it is that your role is, you want to be good in that. And you have to present balance. So you can't be all in any one area. It will make you unbalanced. When I say you can't be all in, you can be all in while you're participating in it, but when it's over, you got to move to your next hat and your next role. So we know that the governing bodies of doctors, the medical field, want us to limit our screen time, whether that's social media, whether that's gaming, whatever. So you got to balance that with your health.
Hmm.
Right.
Yeah,
So sports, again, I don't. It could be checkers, it could be Mortal Kombat, whatever it is. That drive. You need two things to be successful, really, Coach Law. You need to have a passion, and you got to have. If you're missing one of those two things, you'll learn good life lessons. But to be on top, you got to be passionate, right? And and you got to present some kind of talent.
yeah, yeah. I would certainly agree with that. Now, you've done an outstanding job not only with the Northeastern Divers, Coach, but also a lot of the kids that in the South Central PA and actually beyond. And tell us a little bit about what you've done as far as really, and I say this very truthfully toward you, kind of become the center of gravity for diving coach here in South Central PA and beyond. And you've got such a good record here. You've got such a great reputation. Tell us a little bit about that, and maybe some of those top. You've got several great kids that have been doing really, really well for you.
Right. So if we want to talk sport specific, right, we're doing diving right now. I'm doing diving because once again, I was a coach of a different sport and different opportunities arose. We had different kids passionate about different things. So these kids were passionate about wanting to dive. So we have the passion. Now we have talent, and the kids have a good foundation and the foundation is everything. Other schoolwork, the learning the most basic skills, and then putting it together. So that's why they're successful.
Mhm.
Too quick, we want immediate success, and we want to skip the foundation. We want to skip all the lead up skills from our little league coaches and from our youth programs, and we just want to get into dun 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 like time. We want ESPN. We want top. Um, there's no top 10 without a good foundation, and that work is crucial. So the success really is that the kids have bought in to, no matter what I've coached, if you're going to be successful, your basics have to be there. When I have to be there, they are like unbelievable. So it's a reaction, not a thought. So immediately, whatever sport you're playing, if you're reacting instead of thinking, you're already quicker. We know quickness kills. So no matter what sport it is, we have to do that muscle memory, and we have to have someone just hound us. And we talk about technology. Right now in diving, we use a TiVo, and everything they do is record it, and they go look at everything they do, and they can slow-mo it, replay it, play it again, take their phone up and play it side by side with an Olympian, and they can see the difference, and they can make the corrections.
No, that sounds, certainly agree with you as far as muscle memory, because as they used to say in boxing, and they still say it, I guess if you can see the punch coming, you got tagged, so you either
Yes.
slip that punch or you didn't. And like I said, if it's 1-2 buckle your shoe, you're getting whacked. Whereas, like I say, it's muscle memory, the bob, the weave, or whatever the necessary action motor skills are in a particular sport. So now, how about you? Got the other thing that's always been very, very impressed. I've been very impressed with Rusty is your knowledge of the college situation. You've got a son who plays D1 football, and in college at Lafayette, and also you've gotten a lot of kids into a lot of colleges and everything like that, and your knowledge and depth and breadth is very, very impressive. What advice would you give to students or student athletes, as far as going on to college or the world of work, whatever direction you want to go here?
So first, you need a fair evaluation. You need to know what your options are. So, and instead of just dreaming, I'm D1, I'm D2, I'm D3, know where you are, know what your options are. And we certainly have seen our kids go to the biggest schools they can go to and not do well. The biggest, most exciting, the most flattering school may not be the fit, right? You got to try it on. You got to do your homework. You got to see what your major is. You got to understand the coaching style and say, does this fit me? Is this what is comfortable on me? And so we've had national champions at a D2 level Division II over at Westchester and Clarion from our program. They easily could have dove Division I,
Mhm.
but that was not what was best for them. We've had kids leave and go to Division I schools and regretted it and said, I went with the big name. I went with the Nike contract. I went with whatever looked good. They had the best warm-ups. They had the coolest dorms. You got to take a big picture.
Mhm.
So homework is the biggest thing. So most importantly, you want to leave with a diploma, right? So you have to weigh what the diploma's worth and what you're willing to do to get it. Size of the school is very important. Do I want a big school or a small school? Also with the school involved, you have to say, I'm a very conservative person. I'm a liberal person. I'm a person that can deal with either or and decide, can I go to a liberal arts school or do I need a state school? Do I need to be in a city or can I live in the woods? So my suggestion to kids is this: visit a large school, visit a school that's small, visit a school that's in the city and one that's on the outskirts and one in the country. Whatever you like, write it down and then look at the combination. We can limit your school choices from hundreds to 5 or 10, right? The example would be go look at University of Pittsburgh. Maybe you're like, I love the size of that school, but I'm just not a city person. So maybe Penn State's an option. Or maybe you love the city part, but it's just way too many people. Then you might pick a different city school, one that's much smaller, still be in the city. So you got to weigh those options out. And one of the things we fail to realize, and we hear it today in political conversation, is can I afford it? At the end of the day, most of us are paying for school. And the sport is an avenue for someone to be healthy, someone to look after us, be involved, be mentally and emotionally satisfied, but it may not pay all the bills. So can we afford to pay back? The example would be, if you're going to be an engineer, you could take on $60,000, $70,000 worth of loans. If you're going to be a Spanish teacher, no. There's nothing wrong with either career, but you do have to match your debt and your career, right? You can't, just because they allow you to take the loan doesn't mean you will not regret taking it. So we do have to look at cost and everything else. So when you're picking a school, I mean, you can take it from, I think there's over 250 schools in Pennsylvania alone. So we can reduce that number a lot by identifying what you do like and what you can afford.
What would you say, and you brought up the example of, let's say an engineering degree or a Spanish teacher. What would you say would be some of the most, try to put this the right way, the solid degrees? And I think both you mentioned, I mean, a Spanish teacher or engineering certainly would be a solid degree overall, depending on how much debt you get. What would you say would be some of the more solid degrees that you would recommend as far as the students are concerned going forward?
Well, that's easy. I mean, what you're passionate about, right? You have to be wary of how many people graduate with that major and how many people are hired. So you take a look at that. Some years it's great to be an elementary ed teacher coming out, they're hiring great. And then some years we're graduating hundreds and hiring tens. So you got to do a little research and say, is there job availability? I wouldn't say a major is better than another. I know this. There are people who go to college saying, I'm going to be a sports announcer. But that's a long road to hoe. You can obviously do that. You're going to have to put your time in. There are lots of broadcast majors. But if you're passionate, go for it. But understand your risk reward. Have a backup plan in case plan A doesn't work.
Right. What do you think potentially, as far as when you say backup plan, are you thinking like a double major, or what's your thoughts there?
A good example would be, let's say you want to do parks and recreation. You're into that. You like state parks, state forestry. Yeah, you could be a phys ed teacher or go into parks and rec. But if you don't get the teaching certification, then you're going to limit your options. So you can stay in your major, but you might pick up minors or certifications.
Mhm.
Or for example, when I went to grad school, you may pick a different major to help out so you have options, right? But the more narrow focused you are, that's okay if you're going to be a doctor,
Mhm.
orthopedic doctor to a foot doctor. But when you put all your eggs in one basket to revolve around coaching in the NFL and you don't get it, the question is now, what are you going to do? You still have to pay bills.
Mhm.
So have a job dream, have a realistic job, and have a fallback. I say that with schools. Have a dream school, apply to University of Pennsylvania if that's where you want to go. Understand it's a 5% acceptance rate. There's 60,000 applicants. You may not get in. Understand that Villanova or Drexel are great backup plans, and a Millersville Shippensburg is a really good safe bet and a great degree for your money. But just because you end up at Shippensburg doesn't mean it was a waste of a time to have a University of Pennsylvania diploma. You can just retool. Say, I'm going to get a Shippensburg undergrad degree, which is a fantastic degree, and then apply to UPenn for grad school. Once again, you can just retool. I don't think picking a major is for one person to decide what is good. Look, there's two things we're going to be happy. If you like waking up in the morning, going to work, you're going to be excited. If you enjoy coming home and seeing your family when you get home, well, I don't know what more you could ask for. So find a job you like and find a family you want to live with forever.
Great advice, Rusty, as always. As I said, I've always been so impressed with your wisdom. Any last second thoughts before we kind of wrap things up here?
Yeah, do sports because you love them. Don't do them because you think someone's going to pay you.
Mhm.
There's a payout.
Mhm.
And that's where that passion comes in. Look, we've had kids that would have received much better scholarships if they received a different sport, but they chose a sport that was much harder to get a scholarship in.
Mhm.
People's like, oh, we should have pushed them to the other sport. No, you go you go to the sport that you love. And not only that, in the Super Bowl, I don't know, there's a crazy stat. I didn't do my homework to see if it was true. Something like 65 or 75% of those NFL players in the Super Bowl were two sport athletes or three sport athletes.
Interesting.
A few of
Interesting.
them
Yeah.
were one sport athletes.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes sense. Just because you're not using the same muscles, you're giving those other muscles a break, from a different, the different sport and everything. And yeah, it certainly makes a lot of sense. Well, and I think I'm preaching to the choir to you, Rusty, when we say that hey, it's basically one kid out of 8,000 will make Major League Baseball. Less than that, obviously, for the NBA because it's a much smaller pool. But I think you'd certainly agree that the most important thing, and hey, if the kid's got the talent and the drive to make the majors in some sport, awesome. But the biggest thing is, I think, are the life lessons that the kids learn that will take them on, through the rest of their life. And I think you'd probably, agree with that.
Well, there's a great NCAA commercial that boasts about how many college athletes there are,
Mhm.
and almost none of them go professional in the sport, but almost all of them are successful in their careers.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and whether you go to Alabama for football or you go to Kentucky for basketball or you go to Penn State for ice hockey or wrestling, the bottom line is there's always the Ryan Vogelson who's a walk-on at Kutztown University and ends up being a World Series MVP.
Yeah.
There is nothing wrong with picking the one that you like, and there's no indicator that because you picked a school that's not on TV every Saturday that your options are limited.
Mhm.
You will flourish in the area that you're very talented in and you're passionate about. And look, if we don't set high goals and set deadlines for them, they're dreams.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that's another great quote. The difference between a dream and a goal is dreams don't have deadlines,
Mhm.
goals do.
Yeah.
So you got to make a path to your goals and you got to set deadlines.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. Well said. Absolutely agree with that for sure. Well, Rusty, this has been fantastic. If I'd like you to hang on a little bit afterwards once I stop the recording, if you would, please, just for a minute or two. And again, just a reminder for anybody watching this, besides Coach McCollum and some of his great thoughts and advice that he has here, we've got a lot of other people that we've done interviews with as well. Encourage you to, subscribe to the channel, Playing Forward Coaching. And basically, you're picking the brains or listening to some people that have, done some tremendous things as far as their life's concerned. So, Coach, I do appreciate it very, very much. Thank you, sir.
All right, you have a good one, Coach. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, sir. Just hang out and I'll be right back with you here. Okay.